healthy lifestyles.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Four Lads Rangers Monday Night Live. With three baldies and one guy we're here, thankfully. Welcome, everybody, to the show. The aftermath of Saturday's performance continues. We'll have all the discussion on Saturday. We have all the press conference reaction from then and today, as well as talking a wee bit about the arrival, gratefully received, of Oliver Antman, as well as a look ahead to tomorrow's big game. Gentlemen, good evening. Kenny and I obviously did the post-match on Saturday, which was a rather sobering experience, Davey. But give us your kind of take on Saturday's performance and overall draw at Motherwell.
Oh, Saturday was Groundhog Day, wasn't it? I don't suppose we should be too surprised, seeing there was still 7 players started that was there last season, and we've spoken all summer about there was just about nobody that we're all that keen to keep. So maybe it wasn't that much of a surprise, but just watching them basically surrender and just give in, really, it's just so depressing. There's just so many of them just don't belong in a Rangers shirt, and we've been saying it for far too long. I think since I joined this podcast, we've been saying the same thing about that core of players. And I do think there's two elements to it. One is there's players not good enough. Another one is I'd still think tactically we're trying something capable of doing, which makes it doubly worse. I thought the team shape on Saturday again was all over the place. It was wide open. We're not helping ourselves. We're not giving that team the best chance of winning because we're not playing to what strengths those players have got. So it's been a pretty depressing weekend, and let's hope it's the wake up call that the manager required, and let's hope that we see big changes tomorrow night.
I'll tell you straight off the bat, I'm a bit sick of players being told, or players saying that that's a wake up call. Kieran Dill's been here for several years. How many wake up calls does he actually need? So, to be quite honest, can piss off with that, because I'm quite annoyed with that. Saying is they should be well aware it's the opening game of the season. They should be well aware of how up for it the other team will be, and it's to do with their own application. So, no, I don't buy that in the slightest. No thanks, Andy. First time hearing from you on Saturday. Where are you with it?
I think the players failed to grasp that, although it is a long season, you don't get any sympathy. Look across the city, by hook or by crook, they get 3 points, and we're already chasing. So, yeah, that's not where you want to be, especially this early on, because you're going to have European games like tomorrow. That's going to be not going to give you that time to, I don't know, compute what went wrong, and these players seem to think they can relax and just it'll happen when it happens. Well, I'm sorry, lads, but the season's here. You're ready for it or you're not, and the manager's rightly allowed to say that he doesn't think you are if you aren't. It's his job to tell you, are you good enough for my team, and if not, fix that or get out. So I'm all for him, Rusty Martin, telling us his opinion on players, because, I mean, it's no different to what we think. There's been players that have coasted the last number of seasons. And it was, again, as Scott said, it was a letdown, because I was expecting them to take a new kind of breath of fresh air. I knew it wasn't going to be perfect, it wasn't going to be pretty, but I didn't expect us to continue to fall down the same pitfalls that we had in previous years, because you just kind of knew it was coming. We were starting to be so disjointed in the press. The triggers were all wrong. No discipline in that kind of winning the ball back high up the park, and it was just going from their end to our end in about 4 passes, and we were just a day late and a dollar short in every single one of the pressing triggers, and it's just shot us in the foot, and we we got what we deserved. If you want to say that, because we could have deserved a lot less.
Yeah, undoubtedly, I think genuinely, I actually think we were quite lucky to get a point on Saturday. Kenny, we had our say on Saturday evening. You've had time for that to resonate. Where do you now stand, having had a few days to kind of look back on it and everything else?
Still quite similar to where I was the Saturday night after the game. However, when you've got 7 of the previous squad from last year in that team, and when you actually consider it, 5 of them were actually playing out of position from what we would be naturally expecting them to be playing or in the positions they'd be playing. That's kind of my worry. You know, Davey had said this last week in the chat and was concerned about the way he was setting up with these particular players. And you all gave him a hard time. I never said a word. But when you look at it, Davey, you've got a point, because when you consider Raskin and Diamandi have switched sides, you've got Kieran Dowell playing as a right winger, you've got Max Aarons playing as a left back when he's clearly not. John Souttar on that side. The imbalance in that team was there for all to see on Saturday. And Motherwell were made to look like prime Real Madrid or something like that in that second half, because we were nowhere near we just couldn't get near them at times, actually. And the running off the ball and the way they were going past us in that second half as if our players weren't there was a real concern for me. And I know we discussed that a little bit on Saturday, Stevie, but when you can, this is where I ultimately feel, yeah, we can blame the players, but you can also look at Russell Martin and say, well, you picked them, and you picked them in the positions that they're playing in. And I'm a little bit concerned at this minute that perhaps Russell Martin's just been a little bit too clever, or trying to be too clever, in terms of this is the system and this is what you're going to do. And kind of clearly on that second half performance, they're not really capable of doing it. Also, when you add into the entire season so far, the 3 games we've played so far, we've probably played all right for half an hour, 40 minutes against 10 men, and then it's been sporadic apart from that. We have not really played well at all. So a horrible start to the season. It was as poor as I've seen us in a long time. Reminded me a little bit of the Kilmarnock game a couple of seasons back, with Michael Beale's first game of that season. And you could just tell they didn't know what they were doing. And that was a little bit like Saturday for me, where we were just all over the place and with a pile of work to do to get that moving properly, because we're nowhere near it.
Yeah, listen, I had my say this morning on Rangers Review. I'm not going to bore people if they've seen that, but I will summarise where I am from Saturday. First 15 minutes or so until we went to go up, I thought we were fine. Created opportunities. Raskin at the free header, we hit the bar, and we had opportunity. I think Gassama bent one wide, and then we did score. And yep, it looked all right, and then we just stopped. We absolutely stopped. And Motherwell very quickly found us out, and it was this way of one pass undoing absolutely everything. And Slattery began to find far too much space in midfield, and it just became an absolute mishap from word go. He's playing the wrong players. I will continue to say it. There's players in that team who shouldn't be in that team. James Tavernier debate is pretty tiresome, but he should not be starting a game for Rangers. Max Aarons should not be at left back. John Souttar is not comfortable. The midfield isn't right in the slightest. Raskin and Diamandi do not look comfortable at all. And Kieran Dowell is Kieran Dowell. He's not good enough. He plays safe, but on Saturday he was particularly poor. The fact he managed to stay on that whole game, ultimately, it was just like against Panathinaikos, him sleeping and being too weak cost us a goal. James Tavernier cost us a goal, and that's just the kind of story of James Tavernier's career at Rangers, unfortunately. What happens now will be what I think defines Russell Martin. It's not for me to to start going on about his style. He's going to play that way. I wanted a style. I wanted an identity. He will give us that. It's about whether or not it's going to work. And that's the biggest issue for me. Is and we'll need to wait and see. That needs context. That needs time. He needs to get more players in. He needs to wait for players to return and everything. I understand that. So it's interesting because straight after the game, Davey, he didn't stand on ceremony. He went after quite a few players. He talked about mentality, self-preservation. And it was an aggressive press conference so early in Russell Martin's tenure. What did you make of it?
What I made of it was talk's one thing, but something needs to follow it. So if he's going to slaughter players like that, and they absolutely deserve to be slaughtered, the ones he's got in mind that aren't running, the ones that aren't listening, the ones that have got an ego that aren't putting the team first, whoever he's got in mind for that shouldn't be playing tomorrow night. Whoever that is. Now, I've got a fair idea who 2 or 3 of them are. I think you could tell by substitutions who some of them were. So I think you're absolutely right. I think he needs to make a statement. And that statement needs to be that he'll make changes if players don't make their necessary effort. So I'm expecting to see changes tomorrow night. And I think one of them should actually be the captain, because I think that's probably the number one statement he can make. Now, I'm not saying Tavernier was the worst player in the park on Saturday by any manner of means. But I think he represents almost like everything that's wrong but in everybody's mind now. He's tarred with this brush of failure for so long. I do think it's time to play Aaron's where he should be playing. He's a Premiership right back. If you've got a Premiership right back in the squad, why aren't you playing him at right back? I know we've got a left back he doesn't trust particularly, but he's a left back. So Kenny's right in a way. And I actually agree with that. I think Russell Martin's trying to be a bit too smart with this system. He's trying to shoehorn players into it that don't really fit it. But he is going to play that system. And if he's going to do it, he needs to do it with players who will do what they're told. And that means changes have got to be made. So what do I think will happen tomorrow night? I think we'll see 3 or 4 changes. But I think as soon as the team comes out, we'll know whether that press conference was talk or whether it's actually action.
I think that's the biggest thing now, Andy, because Russell Martin, having been so vocal and being so, he has attacked the players. He's questioned mentality. He's questioned, some players need to drop their ego, all about self-preservation. Players have got to be prepared to run. Players have got to be prepared to do what they're told on the training pitch, etc. He's basically told them that. If we go tomorrow night and it's same again, people are going to just think it's piss and wind, and he needs to action that. And it's going to be interesting because I've got a feeling that the players that we might want it to be aimed at are not the players necessarily he was aiming that at on Saturday. So when it comes to tomorrow, that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, we were having this discussion in the group chat earlier about what our teams all are for tomorrow night, and I was really just sitting on the edge of, I really hope that that's what it will be, but I doubt. I have that vein of doubt that goes, I don't think he will, and I think he will, quote, play it safe, so to speak, in that, I mean, he's going to be playing himself into a catch-22 if you take that, the full-back position, because if you want to drop Tav, you're going to have to play Jeffy, who's equally not been either bought in or bothered. We've seen it against Middlesbrough. He looked like he would have rather been anywhere else in the world but Ibrox for that game. So you're going to have to appease one to drop one, and that's not what you want ideally. And this is where we're shoehorning players in. I would have made the change to bring off Diamandi. I would have did it even 5 minutes beforehand because I thought anytime the ball went near him, it wasn't sticking. I thought he had the wrong boots on, to be perfectly honest. I would have made that change for Cameron. I kind of was more leaning on Cameron to start, to be honest, because the one thing he has guaranteed in the glimpse we've seen of him so far is that energizer bunny. He will work. He will be the player that if the ball is 10 yards away from him, he'll make up the ground and just be an option whether he's needed or not, because he just has that work rate. Still, I've never seen a moving pylon with a football shirt on until I watched Kieran Dill. I don't know what he does. We were sitting for 90 minutes deciding what he does for our team, and the only best I could do was decide that is it because he's a wee bit taller than our other wing options for defending set pieces. That's the best I could do for Kieran Dowell. Even players like Gassama wasn't really effective. We never really gave him the chance to be effective again, which is the breaking down in our systems from back to front. Everybody should be training like they're on the chopping block. Anyone that thinks the spot's theirs is kidding himself on. And that's the mentality they need to have. Whether that mentality will make Martin go, well, you know what, we'll give them a second chance and we'll stick to what we did against Motherwell, I don't know. But he, as you said, he has an option to set his stall out and say, no, I stand by my words. If you aren't going to give me it in one game, you're going to sit for the next one. But I just don't know if he's there yet in terms of being authoritative like that.
Well, we're going to find out, Kenny. What I would do is probably different to what Russell Martin would do tomorrow, but I'm interested in finding out. We'll be there, we're covering it. I'm interested in finding out what your opinion is ahead of tomorrow and how you would make or what changes you would make ahead of tomorrow night.
Well, very quickly, I'll say my team out loud as quickly as I can. Then I'll go with Jack Butland. I'll go with Giga and Suter because I genuinely don't think he'll change that anyway. I'll have Max Aarons at right back. I'll have Yefty at left back. I'm very inclined to play Nico Raskin as a 6 and play Joe Rothwell in the 8 that he played last season for Leeds and play. I'll probably stick with Diamande, but I would change the way that the shape of the three of them. I just don't think it worked at all. There is just, as you mentioned on Saturday and this morning as well, Stevie, the gap between our midfield is enormous. It's just enormous. And it's very reminiscent of the start of last season, pre-season last season with under Clement. One pass just cuts right through you, the three of them. That needs addressed. It's got to be sorted. I'll go with Cyril Dessers up front, Gassama and Antman or Moore on the other side. Probably Moore. I don't think he'll start with Antman. I think they'll bring him on as a sub. But it's got to be changed. And they're playing so narrow at times that I can't. This is where I would love to ask them that how can you be so narrow and one pass just cuts right through the whole lot of you all the time? I don't understand that when you're that narrow. When you've got the ball going forward and you're 30, 40 yards for their goal, how can you lose it there and literally 3 passes and they're getting a strike at goal kind of thing? Continually, it's been happening in all 3 games we've played. So we have got to tighten up. I understand that the game that Russell Martin wants to play is to take high risks with the ball and take opponents out of the game, individual opponents out of the game. I understand all that, but if that's not working, the first thing that's got to be right is your defence. Defensively, we're not right. And weirdly, I agree with what you said about defensively. The defensive actually in that siege defending situation have done okay. It's that they've just been left so exposed that they're all chasing back at 100 mile an hour, trying to get a last-ditch block in. And it's terrifying to watch. So it'll be very interesting tomorrow because I would make genuinely 4-5 changes because I wasn't impressed with the first half of Panathinaikos. I wasn't impressed with the first half against Panathinaikos at Ibrox. And I wasn't impressed with the 90 minutes really on Saturday. So yeah, if you're going to sit there and eviscerate them, do something about it because all that needs saying. What Russell Martin has said on Saturday. But my issue, again, and I'm going to kind of go over slightly old ground, but my issue is that you had a conversation with Russell Martin and you kind of told him about the mentality of this squad, Stevie. when he first arrived here. I know the conversation you had, and this is where my concern is about a new manager thinking that he's going to come in and get a different tune out of the same old instruments. You're not going to. That squad that we have from last season and the season before is rotten. It is absolutely rotten. We know it's rotten. They're not capable of going and playing this type of football. They're not capable of winning titles. They're not really capable of winning trophies at all. 3 trophies in 10 years kind of alludes to that. So don't think you're special and capable of getting something out of these guys that you're not going to get. We watch these guys every week and we know what their capabilities are, and you'll be disabusing the notion very quickly if you think you're going to get something out of these guys. You're not.
Davey, how do we if we're not going to change our style and our tactics, and I'm not advocating for that because I think we need to have time to see how this works, but the biggest concern I have is surrounding our nines, and I spoke about this kind of a wee bit last week, spoke about it this morning. We're not creating any opportunities for our nines in the slightest. I think I looked at it and Danilo had that half chance at home at Panathinaikos when the ball dropped. Dessers had a chance away in Panathinaikos at the end. We created absolutely nothing for our nines otherwise. We are not attacking in a way that is bringing players into it. And what do we do ahead of tomorrow night? Personnel wise, would you fix it? Would you change it? Would you change your 9 in the hope that that's the issue? But how do you create opportunities and how do we get players in? Are you for throwing Antman in straight away? And he obviously has just arrived. But why are we not? Why do we look like we're a boring football team to watch in terms of what we've actually been promised? Because attacking wise, we've not offered a lot of opportunities at all, cutbacks, things like that. They've not really happened. So how do you fix that before tomorrow night?
I think the thing we were promised was this aggressive, high tempo, quick passing, front foot football, getting on top of the opposition defence and winning the ball high up the park. That absolutely hasn't been the style that we've sat and watched so far. I'm quite close to what Kenny's team would be for tomorrow night. I would change the 9. I would play Dessers. I think Dessers is kind of proven against teams like this in Europe. He's got a decent scoring record. I thought when he came on last Wednesday, wasn't it? Well, yeah, last Wednesday. I thought he looked relatively sharp. I know he missed a chance, but he looked as if he was a handful for the defence. I would play him. I would absolutely play 2 wingers, Gassama and Antman. I've got to start for me. We've got to start doing what we say we're going to do. Get the ball out wide, get it to quick wingers, get them to take on fullbacks, get them to hit bylines and get the ball into the penalty box. So that's what we say we're going to do. Antman and Gassama are designed for that kind of system. And what I also think is that I don't think Russell Martin will change the system. I think you're absolutely right. And maybe he shouldn't because he's trying to build one. But I do think the 2 8s being so wide doesn't really make a lot of sense to me because I think they're getting in the way. I think they're actually getting in the way of the 2 wingers. I would have them slightly narrower. And I'd probably play Lyle Cameron instead of Diamandi because I think he's more offensive, more sharp, cleverer sort of in the final third. I think we need a little bit of craft and coming from that area of the park. I'm not quite sure Raskin or Diamandi are that kind of number 8. I would actually play Raskin as a 6 as well, same as Kenny, and I would play Rothwell as one of the 8s, or with Cameron as the other one. So Cameron, 2 wingers plus Dessers gives you 4 naturally attack-minded players, and I think that's a better setup than what we've been watching so far.
Yeah, Mohamed Diamandi is a bit of a conundrum because he's most often he's really hard working and good in Europe, but it's a games like Saturday where he goes missing. Andy Stewart, just kind of rounding up this conversation, do you have any kind of big suggestions? I've got a fear that he will start Gassama and Antman, which I don't mind in the slightest, but my fear is that something happens in the middle that we don't agree with, like Dowell shifts in one to become one of the 3 and and it's Rothwell and Diamande or Rothwell. I think Raskin will come out of the team tomorrow. I think Raskin was one that he was aiming at that. We'll find out tomorrow. I really hope it's not. It wouldn't be something I would do. I don't think he'd drop. I don't think he changes the back four regardless of what we think. I do think Jeffy would bring more balance. So that's, and I'm with him on the Jeffy comments. However, I just think having watched them and seen them on Saturday, I think Max Aarons looks extremely uncomfortable at left back. The more it goes on, I would switch Max to right. That's only personal choice. So, there's a few changes in there for me. I'm not entirely sure that swapping Danilo and Dessers makes a huge difference if you're not going to feed them any ball. But I can see why people would do it. And Dessers' record is good. So I understand that. I don't mind that. Either way. But I've just got a fear that that's something he might do. What are you looking to change and how are you fixing that? Fix is probably the wrong word, but how are you changing for tomorrow, if anything?
Well, I think Dowell out at right wing is taking him out of that squad is an absolute non-negotiable. I think it's needed. I don't know what way Martin, if he picks him, can justify selecting him whilst dropping others, because I don't see the work rate. Even if he wants to say he tries hard, I don't see that. I mean, there was a countless times he'd lose his runner and just give up. At least track back. The eye
Yeah, you're
test
right.
is
He got roasted by that fullback who eventually scored. He got
but
absolutely
he
roasted.
gave up
all
on him.
afternoon.
That was the thing. He's trying to push him, using his hands to hold them back. As soon as he loses them, it turns and goes, oh well. At least get on your bike and try and catch him. At least look like you care. And to me, he didn't. He gave up. He went, oh, I've made a mistake. Tough. No, at least do your best to get back. That's a non-negotiable for him to be on the wing. I don't want him in the midfield either. If it's too soon for Antman, even Oscar Cortez for me, because he has been working hard. I think the Middlesbrough game was an example of that, where you get Jeffy at left back and you've got Cortez over the other side, and it was an example where one player wasn't up for making an impression and the other player was doing his absolute best to make an impression. And Oscar was dealt a bad hand in terms of his position. He was forced to play, but he worked his socks off, and that's what I need. Even if it might not be a best effort, especially since Cortez is probably suited better to the left-hand side, you might not be as comfortable as you'd like to be, but you're going to work hard for me. That's a non-negotiable. And if you're not going to work hard for me, you're not going to play for me, is where I would see it. So if Antman's not ready, Cortez, I'd be trying there. Cameron for me gets a start, because again he's not done anything wrong for me. He's worked his socks off. I think it also promotes that within the team, that if you work hard, you get a shot. That's what we need. I want players to buy in that if they are working hard and they're showing that they're willing to put themselves second and do their best for their teammates around them, for the team overall, that you'll get rewarded for it. Because I don't want us to be resting on our laurels and that's his man, I don't need to worry about him. I want effort, work rate, working hard, first minute to last, or until you need to come off because you're injured with Rangers. Effort, make the shot sweat. That's what I need from players. I don't need half-assed attempts of here to make up the numbers on a fancy European night. Get involved. Non-negotiable.
Yeah, and it can't only be European nights. Kenny, the biggest thing to come from today's press conference is the absolute frustration that Tello Asgard and Hamza Gaman aren't ready. This is the issue. The word quite early on was, and I said it myself, he walked off against Dunfermline. It was a minor injury. Rangers have reported that all the way. Russell Martin's now said for about 1,800 press conferences in a row that this is a short injury, and he's almost made it back, almost for Saturday, almost for this. It breeds that frustration amongst the support, not only for Asgard but for both of them. So that's an issue for me. Aside of that, it was a very bog standard press conference. The players have watched clips, they've reacted well in training, great, okay. How frustrating is that Asgard and Hamza Igaman thing, because both of them at this moment in time would walk into that team. But Rangers have to get this. They have to start getting this message right to the support. Otherwise, it's just going to piss everyone off.
You're absolutely right, and I'll tell you why. My son messaged me today, and he said exactly that. And I'll not quote him verbatim, but what is going on here, because you're getting told it's a few days, and then it's a couple of weeks, and I mean we're not even 100% sure he's going to be in this squad tonight, are we? I mean, I'm hoping he is, Asgard, but the rumor is that it could now be 4 or 5 weeks and things like this, and you're like, well, have they misdiagnosed this? And like, genuinely, I'm now actually of that opinion that if you're turning around and saying initially as the manager it's a few days, and now all of a sudden it's not a few days, this is get the Jordan Rossiter 7 to 10 days shit written all over it, and it's get the Tom Lawrence. He took an arc, he'll be out for a week or two, and he's out for 9 months. This is the issue that we as fans have, as Rangers supporters, is the amount of misinformation coming at press conferences from consecutive managers. This has been going on since Gio was here, that you're getting told about injuries, and whatever you're getting told, you can take it with a pinch of salt and throw it behind your back, because we don't. Whatever we were told a fortnight ago is clearly not the case. And
we're 3 weeks in now, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're 3 weeks into an injury. See, if he was going to be out for 4, 5, 6 weeks, I'd rather be told that than be told misinformation.
Just tell us. And that's what makes me think, is it actually been misdiagnosed? Is it the story was that it was a dead leg? Is it, is it much worse than a dead leg? Is there a hematoma in the dead leg? I'm not suggesting there is, by the way. I'm just saying that a dead leg, you would normally be out for a week, 10 days, mate. If it's a really bad dead leg, then that becomes a muscle injury. And if it's a muscle injury, then we should be told, instead of continually having to ask at press conferences. And I'm quite flippantly saying, no, they're not in the squad, which he did today. No, they're not in the squad, they're still out. Why are they still out? This is where the medical staff situation, we've discussed at length over many months, Stevie, but this kind of situation needs addressed for me, because it is incredibly frustrating. And there's nothing else you can really add to it, is there? Well, these are some of the most important games of the season. You're getting misinformation effectively. That is what the situation is. And I'm not saying that it's the manager that's given the misinformation so much. It's more whatever it is that's has happened is being misrepresented to fans. And as fans, we don't like it, do we? I mean, just tell us the truth. And that's where, just to go on to something very quickly, where, Andrew was talking about Oscar Cortez there. And that's another thing that I'm a wee bit dubious about with Russell Martin here, just to wind this up. He did that in the same game. He played Bailey Rice at left centre half, and I just don't understand why he's doing some of these things. And I know I'm off on a tangent there. It's just that I just really, it's frustrating me a little bit, the whole thing. And even that press conference today with Russell Martin kind of frustrated me a little bit, because I found him a little bit tetchy with a couple of the press, the press today as well, and it was quite snappy with a couple of them, and I found that a little bit interesting. Don't know what you thought, if you've seen it, mate, but I genuinely felt it was trying to be as cut as he could at times.
Haven't seen it yet, but I will go and sit and watch it. In better news, Oliver Antman is here. In other news, Redvan Yilmaz is rumoured to be very close to leaving the club. Again, reports in Turkey, there's nothing solid over here. It's only about the 1,000th time that's been reported. Davey, Antman is here. 15 goal assists last year, 6 goals, 21 goal involvements in 32 games. He's got a sensational record, fast, pacey winger, eye for a goal, loves a cutback, etc. Please be the answer. Please be. He's the first one, by the way, in quite a while that's actually been linked that has really terrific stats. Him coming in £3 million odd, rising I think to 4.2, and then potentially Redvan Yilmaz going out the door for what appears to be a reported sum of £3.5 million would be pretty good business. Rangers do need to move on Redvan Yilmaz, even if it allows us to bring in a much necessary left back.
Yeah, the two wingers we've bought recently actually seem incredibly good bits of business for the money that we've spent. I can only go with the stats for Antman because I don't think I've ever seen him play, but certainly a winger that seems to score every 4 or 5 games and create a goal every couple of games sounds quite good to me. And the Dutch league's at least as strong, if not stronger, than the Scottish league is. So you would think he would be able to do that here. Gassama for the same kind of money, I think it's going to be an absolute bargain as well. So hats off to the recruitment team. We absolutely need the wingers in, and it looks as if we've got 2 that might get us in the edge of their seats this year, which is not before time. In terms of Yilmaz, I mean, he's been linked with Turkey basically since 5 minutes after he arrived. I just don't bother listening to it anymore. If he's finally going this time, great. And all the better if the money gets then spent on a left back coming in, because it's patently obvious that even if Jeffy doesn't go anywhere, we can't rely on him this season. We need him as the backup and a first choice left back, whoever that's going to be. And if it can be a Max Aaron's equivalent on the other side, then that would be even better. But I'm really looking forward to seeing Antman. And what I don't want to hear tomorrow is he's in the squad, but he's not quite fit enough, and I'm wanting him on the bench, and then we end up with not a right winger in the right. I'd rather see 60 minutes of him and then get us in front and then bring somebody else on to kill the game, rather than throw him on with 20 minutes to go when you're chasing it.
Yeah, I don't really care, Andy, if he knows their names or knows anything about it. I would start him straight away. And I think it would give everybody a lift if you've seen Gassama and Antman on either side. Mikey Moore and Antman, incidentally, folks, we are waiting to hear finalisation of that European squad. So Mikey Moore obviously is going to take a bit longer as he's under 18. So let's, he needs special clearance for that. So let's see where that ends up. But Andy, ahead of tomorrow night, it is a solid signing. It's one that kind of excites. He's got that kind of stature of numbers in that last year. He's one that we are and will welcome. I would love to see us sign somebody like Gassama has that just hits the ground running, and all of a sudden you've got threats down either side. Surely that would start to help and make us look a lot better, and it should, in theory, start presenting the number 9 with those elusive chances also.
I mean, yeah, when you've got one quick step, fast winger on one side, and then you've got a caravan on the other side, you're going to be disjointed. You want your wingers in this kind of system to be active, making the back line of the opposition, having to follow and be thinking steps ahead, so that if you've got an intelligent striker, they can work into the gaps that they leave. Oliver Antman, 22 goal involvements and 36 in the Eredivisie. We're a go-ahead Eagles team that were in the top half and won a cup. That's pretty good going for a club. That's a great season, and for a player, that's an even better season. He should be really proud of those numbers. He's making waves for the Finnish international team. He got an assist in the last international break against Poland. I think it's one of these where we've given him an opportunity to have a launching point for the remainder of his career. Got Rangers be consistent, crack in Europe, and then see where it takes you, because he's a player that has the talent, good age, good build for the position, can score, can assist. the upside's well and truly there. We just need to capitalise on it. He needs to capitalise on it. And like you said, I think I'd prefer to see him give us 60 and then come off, because you can understand that they may need minutes being managed, new systems. So I understand that, but we'd like to see a glimpse of two coherent wingers that at least have an idea of what they're doing, and hopefully that will trickle down into having a wee bit more organisation throughout the team, and that nobody's doing two roles, or we're trying to make the best out of somebody that can't play that position, like Kieran Dowell.
Andy, see on Antman, right? Very quickly, Rangers went 1-1 on Saturday, and they suddenly went, "Oh shit, we need to get our finger out here," and they immediately cut Motherwell open twice on the right hand side, and Bayrami made a night arse of it. My thought is, and my wish and prayer is that if we can get Antman in there in those positions, because by the way, see when Bayrami gets that's a one-touching shot for me. He's at a good angle. He's in on the right-hand side. Make the goalie make a save. Make him push it out. Do anything other than what he done, which was take too many touches. If we can get an incisive guy in there, like Antman, like Gassama, etc., on both sides, going at it like that, surely that's going to make a world of difference for me. In theory.
So. Yeah,
in
hope
theory,
so.
Yeah.
I think at that point in the game as well, I think we completely just neglected any sort of rational thought. We threw everybody in a blue shirt into the 6-yard box and tried to put it there, and nobody had the presence of mind to maybe drop off to the penalty spot. Which, I mean, it's a poor ball from Bayrami, but if somebody else is there for a bit of variety instead of us doing a pylon in the 6-yard box, and he maybe pulls it back. But that's hindsight's 2020 and so on. But yeah,
but we need, see in that position though, we need to be more incisive. Yeah, and I'm hoping.
Yeah, no, a player who maybe has had the eye for goal last season and has that confidence, maybe the lack of scar tissue, maybe does take that touch and has a shot and goes, well, let's see if I can be a difference maker. If you can put the pressure on your shoulders that if you make an arse of it, you're going to get booed, because there's no doubt about it. It's a good position to be in. They worked the ball into a good area. They did nothing with it. With a player of Antman's final ball or shot caused the keeper to make a save, maybe find the net, I'd say he probably could be based on his previous. But I mean, we'll see. I'm not one to be hyping wingers straight away, because I mean, I don't see his name anymore because I got shouted at in the comments about it. But my man Mutondo got a goal and an assist against West Ham in his first game at the club, and he's shit. So I don't want to hype players to the moon. I want a consistent stream of form that I can rest my hat on and say, no, he will be a difference maker. He's done it at Go Ahead. Can he do it at Rangers? That's the question.
Kenny, I think the biggest thing is just finally, mate, from us is we need to be entertained. We need that excitement. We need wingers fast flowing. We need more than what we've seen from Saturday, which after 15 minutes was very turgid and very difficult to watch. We need to be entertained, or we want to be entertained. Forget the entitled bit of what I just said. We're all preying on that entertainment. Hopefully Antman can do that. Hopefully Red Van Yilmaz moves on with a few others so that we can start to put more places in with this jigsaw. 9 players in already, and it's probably fair to say we need another 4. But Antman should hopefully bring something.
Yeah, you would think so. The right profile, right age, tremendous season last season, and if he can bring that kind of form to us, then we'll all be delighted. And the game on Saturday was the lack of creativity that kind of disappointed me. I just felt we just didn't create very much at all, and we're crying out for that. This system apparently is loaded in your favour to create chances. Well, we're not seeing much of it yet, so hopefully that's where we're at. The fact that we'll have 2 wingers to start will help massively, because I don't know if the imbalance is causing it to be a little bit more, as you say, turgid when you're trying to get forward, and it's just a little bit clunky or whatever. Whereas if you've got the two natural wide players, it's going to free flow much quicker than it has been. I would certainly hope so, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow night because I do feel that the opportunity is there for us, and we have a situation where the players have been put under pressure by their own manager, and so let's see how they do. Go and express yourself is exactly what he's saying, so let's see how they do tomorrow. But looking forward to seeing this new boy because by all accounts he is a fine player.
Yeah, he would be straight in for me. Be quite honest with you. So I don't mind saying that in the slightest. Right, that is us for Monday Night Live. We are back tomorrow from the gantry. We will have full coverage from Ibrox Stadium on the Matchday vlog straight after. For those of you who are members, our second of the big interviews arrived today. Mark Hateley and I sat down for what is a brilliant 90 minutes of discussion. We spoke about everything in his time at Rangers, based solely on the premise of this series is called the Rangers year, so it was all about his time at Ibrox. It started off with him signing in July 1990. We talked about Graham Souness, talked about that Aberdeen game, John Brown in the brown paper bags and everything else that went with it, and everything, the European run, the Bernard Tapie Marseille cheating scandal. We got Mark's opinion on everything, and he was brilliant. We got his favourite moments, and by the way, everybody knows Mark Hateley and the strength of Mark Hateley and everything else. Watch him welling up at the end of this interview when we talk about Walter and we talk about what Rangers Football Club means to Mark Hateley. So it was an unbelievable thing for me. I grew up as Mark Hateley is one of my heroes, and I absolutely loved every minute of it. So I hope people enjoy it. We've got more big interviews to come. David is hosting Gordon Smith next week, which is one for the ages as well, because Gordon's got some fantastic stories of trebles and two trebles, if I remember rightly, and one treble, sorry, David, and European stories and all sorts. So that will be brilliant, and hopefully people are enjoying it. Those that are YouTube members, you can sign up for 99p a month. I really hope that people will consider that, and I hope they enjoy the Hateley one as much as I did. I genuinely absolutely loved it, and I hope they do. So on behalf of the four of us, thank you for joining us tonight and listening. Thank you to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, and our podcast partners, Jesus, I can't speak, Black Rooster and Art of Gold for all their help this evening. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. We are well past 9,000 subscribers, so thank you for everybody that has subscribed. We love that, and we head now towards 10,000. So thank you, everybody, for your time joining us this evening. We'll be back tomorrow live from Ibrox Stadium. Have a good rest of the night. Check out that Mark Hateley interview. It's really good. And everybody, take care and speak to you all soon. Bye for now.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.